Hey there. If you own a small business, you've almost certainly heard the name Claude by now. Maybe somebody told you that it's the AI that business people actually use, or that it's better than ChatGPT for real work. But I'm guessing nobody's probably sat down and told you in plain English what it is and what it can do for a business like yours. That's what this video is. By the end, you'll understand what Claude actually is, no jargon, and you'll have 5 specific jobs you can hand it this week. And just so you know, this isn't theory and it isn't a sales pitch. Everything I'm about to show you is Claude doing real work on my own screens in my own businesses this week. Now, before we get into what Claude is, I want to give you the one idea that makes all of this actually click. Because most people who try one of these AI tools and walk away disappointed, they walk away for the exact same reason. They treated it like the wrong thing. Here's the shift. Don't treat Claude like a search box. Treat it like the smartest new employee you've ever hired. One who happens to work for almost nothing, never sleeps, has basically read everything. You don't just type 3 keywords at it, you talk to it. You give it background, you tell it what you need, and then you let it do the work. If you get that one thing right, everything else in this video works. Miss it, and you're going to think that the whole thing is overrated, okay? And a couple of things I want to flag before we get started, so you'll stick around for them. There's one thing I would never ever paste into Claude, and I'll tell you exactly what that is and why in just a few minutes. There's also one of these 5 jobs that surprises just about everybody. It's number 4, and it has nothing to do with writing. So I'll tell you which single job to start with today if you only do one thing after this video. I also put this whole thing on a free PDF starter kit for you, the 5 jobs and copy and paste starter prompts for each one. So you're not staring at a blank screen wondering what to type. It's free. The link's down in the description. Please go and download it and use it. Okay. All right. So, what is this thing called Claude? Claude is an AI assistant. It's made by a company called Anthropic. And the simplest way I can describe it is this: it's a very capable assistant that you talk to like a real person, and it talks back like a real person. You type something in plain English, the way you maybe text a coworker, and it answers. That's it. That's the whole interface. There's nothing to learn, no buttons to figure out. If you can send a text message, you can use Claude. And here's the bonus tip that I always recommend to everyone. Look into an app for your computer called Whisper Flow, WISPR. It's an app that basically turns one of the keys on your keyboard into a walkie-talkie button. Anytime you want to type something to your AI, or to anything else for that matter, you just hold down that walkie-talkie button and talk. Everything you say gets perfectly transcribed onto the screen. It even cleans up spelling or grammatical errors for you on the fly if you want it to. It's incredibly accurate, and it saves so much time when you need to have a conversation with one of these AI tools. It also makes writing emails or business documents just as fast. So it works everywhere on your computer. They even have a full-blown 2-week free trial, no credit card needed. Trust me, after 2 weeks, you will be very happy to pay the modest subscription fee to have this in your life. I'll put a link down in the description for it so you can check that out. Trust me, it's worth it. All right. Now, a lot of people ask me, isn't Claude the same thing as ChatGPT? And basically, yes, they are the same thing. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and several more. They're all AI assistants that you chat with. But there are some differences too. I personally use Claude for most of my real business work because I find it's careful. It thinks about what it's doing and it tries to make sure it's not going to do damage to anything. Second, it writes in a way that really does sound human, takes a little coaching, but we get you there. And 3, it's less likely to just make things up that aren't true. But honestly, for most of what I'm about to show you here, any of those big AI tools will do a great job. Don't get stuck picking. I do use ChatGPT and Gemini for other serious work too. I've got other videos coming out soon that'll talk about which one to use and when, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole here. Just pick one and start. And here's the good news for getting started. They all have a free version you can use today, right now for nothing. And the paid versions are cheap. We're talking about 20 bucks a month. So money is not really a good reason to be sitting this one out. And one honest caveat before we go further, because you know I'm not going to sell you fairy dust here. Claude is not magic. It's not going to run your entire business for you while you go sip daiquiris on the beach. And it does get things wrong sometimes, confidently wrong, actually, which we'll talk about. but when used the right way, it's the single most useful business tool I have seen in years. And as you can probably tell, I have been around a few. So let me show you the 5 jobs. We have the writing department, your plain English translator, your thinking partner, your numbers helper, and your blank page destroyer. Every one of them is something you can start on this week with nothing more than the free version in about 10 minutes. Now, I also want you to notice what's not in this list here. There's no software development, no custom business apps, no social media management. There are actually a lot of things that are missing from here that you will eventually begin using Claude for. I use Claude for all of those things, but this list was specifically created for a new user to the platform, to AI in general. These are 5 simple ways that a first time user can find real business value in these tools. You don't need any experience or expertise whatsoever in order to be able to do these things, okay? So let's go ahead and jump in. Job number 1, and this is the one that usually everyone starts with for a good reason. Claude is your writing department. The email you've been dreading, a proposal, the About Us page for your website that you never finished, maybe a firm but polite reply to an unhappy customer, a job posting for that position that you've had open for 2 months. You give Claude your rough thoughts, even just a few messy bullet points, and it will hand you back a real draft, something that you can actually send after a quick review and maybe a few small tweaks. Now, here's the catch, and you probably already run into it. The first time you ask AI to write something, it'll probably come back sounding like a robot in a suit, stiff, generic, and usually stuffed with a billion of those long M dashes that no one actually uses. People call this AI slop. But here's the thing, that's not really an AI problem, it's a missing instructions problem. You didn't tell it who you are. So the beginner fix is really simple. Give it a couple examples of things that you've actually written, an email or two that you were happy with, and say, write this in my voice. Just that one move, and the writing goes from sounding like a robot to sounding like you on a good day. It's a small thing, but it makes an enormous difference. And in the interest of full disclosure, this is exactly the kind of thing we walk owners and their teams through in our agency, getting Claude or GPT or whatever set up so it writes in your voice and actually saves you time instead of creating more work. And for the folks who'd rather just have the whole thing built for them, we do that too. My website link is down in the description below. All right, let's keep going because the next one is really where it starts to feel less like a toy. Job number 2. Claude reads all the boring, confusing stuff so you don't have to. Every owner has a stack of these, a contract with a clause you don't understand, an insurance policy written by lawyers for lawyers, a new regulation, a 40-page report somebody sent you that you're just never going to read, maybe a competitor's pricing page. You take that thing, paste it in, or upload the file, and you ask in plain English, what does this actually mean for my business, and what should I be careful about here? And in about 10 seconds, it's going to read the whole thing and explain it to you like a smart friend who just happens to be an expert, not in legalese, in normal people words. Now, I want to be straight with you here because this matters. It can misread things. On anything that costs you real money or legal weight, a contract, a tax question, don't just take its word for it and sign. You can't just throw all common sense out the window here. Use it to understand the thing, to know what questions to ask, and then check the important parts with a real human, your accountant, your attorney. Think of it exactly like a sharp new assistant. Incredibly helpful, saves you hours, and you still glance over the work before it goes out the door. Trust, but verify. That theme's probably going to come up more than once here today. All right, job number 3. And this is the one that changed how I work more than any other. Claude as a thinking partner. Not writing this time, thinking, working through a complex decision with you. Here's what I mean. Should I raise my prices and by how much? Is it time to hire or am I just slammed this month? How do I respond to this 1-star review without making it worse? Why was last month so slow? You lay out your situation, give it the real details, and then you ask it to poke holes in your thinking, and it will. Here's my personal favorite way to use it. I'll hand it a competitor, their website, their social feed, and I'll ask it to reverse engineer their whole approach, who they're going after, what's working for them, and what they're leaving on the table that I could go after. Then I ask it to build me a plan. And the important part, tell me what will not work for my business and why. And fair warning, it will tell you. That's the whole point. You can either use this thing to make yourself feel better about your business, or you can use it to actually fix your business. You can't have both. I've been building businesses for over 30 years now. I've got an MBA for whatever that's worth. I built multiple 7 and 8 figure businesses from the ground up. And some of the sharpest strategy conversations I have these days are with Claude at 11 o'clock at night when everyone else is asleep. It excels at critical thinking, strategy, and planning. Use that to your advantage, right? Job number 4. This is the one I promised would surprise you, and it has nothing to do with writing. Claude can make sense of your numbers. Here's what most people don't realize you can do. You can take a spreadsheet, your sales, an export from your accounting software, a list of your customers, and you just hand the whole file to Claude, and then you ask it questions the way you would ask a bookkeeper out loud in plain English. You can ask it things like, in which months am I the slowest? Which customers haven't ordered for me in the last 90 days? What's my average sale? Where am I making the most money and where am I quietly losing it? No formulas, no pivot tables, no spreadsheet wizardry. You don't need to know any of that. You just ask the question and it digs through the file and tells you. For a lot of owners, this is the moment the light goes on because they've had that data sitting there for years and just never had time to actually look at it. Now you can just ask Claude what's going on with it. But same rule as always, though. If it hands you a number you're going to make a real decision on, please spot check it. It's a brilliant assistant, not a certified accountant. But as a way to finally understand what your own numbers are telling you, honestly, it's really hard to beat. Job number 5. This is the one for every task that's been sitting on your list for over a year because you don't even know where to start. You know the ones. I need a hiring checklist and I've never written one. Turn these messy notes into an actual step by step process that my team can follow. Build me a 30-day onboarding plan for my next new hire. Draft me a simple refund policy. Write me a script for that awkward phone call that I keep putting off. All the stuff you swore you'd get to eventually, as soon as you get that mythical free afternoon, which of course you don't. The reason these things never get done is that starting from a blank page is the hardest thing to do. Claude erases that blank page. It gets you 80% of the way there in about a minute. And then you just tweak the last 20% or so it fits your business. Something that's been stuck on your to do list for a year is suddenly done before lunch. For a lot of people, that's a real light bulb kind of moment. And that right there is the pattern across all 5 of these. Claude doesn't replace you. It takes the job from zero to almost done, and then you bring it home that final stretch. All right, before I tell you which one to start with, I owe you that one honest warning that I promised you. I will never paste anything into Claude that I wouldn't be comfortable handing to an outside vendor. And I mean the really sensitive stuff: customer social security numbers, employee medical information, passwords, my full customer list with everybody's name and phone number attached. Here's the simple way to think about it. Using one of these AI tools is a little like emailing a helpful company that you don't really fully know yet. For the vast majority of your work, that's probably fine, but there are a few things you just wouldn't put into that email. Same idea here. And the practical fix is easy. Most of the time, you don't even need the sensitive part. You can strip the names and numbers out and still ask your question about the rest. And if you're doing serious work with private business data, there are business versions of these tools built to keep your information private. If that's something you need, then just reach out to me and we can get you pointed in the right direction. The point here isn't to scare you off. 99% of what you'll do is perfectly safe. Just keep the crown jewels out of it and you're fine. These tools are genuinely powerful and they're worth using, and you should walk in with your eyes open. Both of these things are true at the same time, and anybody who only tells you half of the story is probably selling you something. So that's the 5: your writing department, your plain English translator, your thinking partner, your numbers helper, and your blank page destroyer. Every one of them is something you can start on this week with nothing more than the free version in about 10 minutes. And I owe you one last answer on which one to start with. I'm actually going to give you 2 different answers here. If you're just looking for a really simple and free way to get a taste of what these things can do for you, start with number 2, the translator. Go find the most confusing thing sitting on your desk right now, some contract, a report, a letter from the state that you've been avoiding. Scan it in and paste it into the free version of Claude and ask it, what does this mean for your business? It costs you nothing, it's completely safe, and I promise you'll have that little, oh wow moment inside of about 5 minutes. That moment is the whole thing. Once you feel it, the rest of this will just make perfect sense. But if you're looking to have a really big wow kind of moment, go grab my pre written prompt in the free PDF down below here, the one for the competitor website teardown, and paste that into Claude along with 5 of your competitor websites. He'll ask you a few questions and he'll deliver a very detailed strategy report fully customized to your business that will absolutely blow your socks off. All you have to do is copy and paste. And I promise, once you see that kind of analysis and realize that this has been sitting at your fingertips this whole time, you will come away with a very different perception of what these tools can do. Now, once you've got a feel for Claude itself, the natural next question is okay, what are some of the tools I can use to help me run this business? And I made a video on exactly that, the real tools I use every day. It's going to be right up here. Go watch that one next. All right. Thanks very much. Talk to you soon.